Dr. Curry?
I want to call the regular meeting of the Village of Corrales governing body to order. Please turn your phones off or put them on vibrate, and then stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Burkett?
Present.
Oh, good. Councilor Murray?
Here.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Here.
Councilor Miera?
Here.
Councilor Woolman?
Here.
Councilor Knight?
Here.
Okay, everybody's here, so I need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So tonight we're having some presentations. Oh, yes. First is Loving Thunder. You're not Tawana though, are you?
Yes, I am.
You are? I thought you had blonde hair. Okay,
Never.
okay. Well, somebody was impersonating you the time I was out there. then.
Here.
Okay,
Okay, well, I did have my hair highlighted.
okay. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
All right. And this is your husband?
This is my husband, Mike.
Hello.
I'm Mike Rupp. I'm Mike and Tawana Rupp with Loving Thunder Therapeutic Riding. Many of you know that we moved into Corrales a couple of years ago. And we have a wonderful therapeutic riding program in the north end of town. And we're hosting a great event coming up the middle of November. Counselor Waldman invited us to come and tell you all about it. And it is the Equus Film and Arts Festival that's coming to town. They originally were scheduled to be in Sacramento, and they ended up with plans getting changed and canceled, and so they decided to come to Albuquerque. What we're doing here in Corrales is the Mustang Summit part of their event. It is a fundraiser for veterans and wild Mustangs. And it is we're gonna have 6 round pens set up in the arena with 6 yearling Mustangs. And there'll be trainers from all over the United States coming in to train those Mustangs and gentle them for the weekend. We're not gonna be riding them at the end of the 3 days, but they're gonna be gentled. And then those Mustangs are gonna go up for adoption. The Arts and Film Festival part of it will be held at the Chaco Hotel. And then there's a VIP event on Thursday, November 16th at the ranch. So it's going to be a great time. There's going to be presenters from all over the United States coming in. There's only one local trainer that I know of, and that's Shani Silva from Penny Lane Foal Rescue in Rio Rancho. And then the rest of them are all going to be coming in from all over the United States, from Kentucky, South Carolina, Ohio, all kinds of stuff. There's going to be presentations as well as panels set up throughout the 3 days at our property here in Corrales. And it's going to be a really fun time. So is there any questions?
Well, I just make a comment. We are having a village-wide cleanup about a week before that, so that's good.
Okay. Well, we'll
So
be nice
everybody
and
throw
spiffy
your
for everybody.
Trash, your green trash away. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions from the council? Councilor Murray?
Thank you. So where exactly is your property then?
It's at One Calle Caballo, the very north end of Corrales.
Okay.
It's off of Paseo Cesar Chavez.
Anyone else?
Just want to thank you very much for coming. It sounds like a terrific event. I know we talked at the Harvest Festival, and it sounds really, really terrific. So good luck with all your plans.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We
Well,
hope
thank
you're
you for
very
inviting us
successful.
and giving us the opportunity to tell you guys about it.
And
So-
then to be here, right here in Corrales, they chose our center out of everybody else in Albuquerque. So this is something great to give our Corrales people, our town here, and I feel very proud about it, that we can present this to Corrales.
Really good,
So
really good.
we hope you all will come.
How did they happen to, did you have to send them a letter, or was someone else
It was-
sponsor you, or?
It was kind of an accident. Tom Camacho, who is the grant writer for the Nota Begay Foundation, is a friend of mine. And we had been trying to partner together and come up with a fundraising idea for quite some time, and nothing had really kind of materialized. And Tom is a friend of Lisa Dyerson, who's the executive director and founder of the Equus Film Festival. And he heard that she was looking for a venue in Albuquerque and held up our hand.
Well,
So
So how often do they have these? Is it an annual event or is it every 3
they're
years?
having them all over the United States. 3 weeks ago, they were in Westfield, Colorado. About 6 weeks ago, they were in Ohio. So she's kind of traveling across the United States and doing this event in several locations. And then they do come back. I mean, if they love it here and they want to come back, they'll be back next year.
And is the Film Fest part of each of those stops?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's to honor and award to any kind of Equus film, documentaries, all sorts of, anything to do with horses and, you know, what filmmakers and producers and filmmakers do. So it's really
well,
cool.
thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for the
I'm
opportunity.
glad you get this recognition.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and Corrales too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
glad to show off Corrales.
Yes.
So, and all their people wanted to come to Albuquerque, so what a great time to come to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
all right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So now we're going to hear from Robert Padilla, Supervisory Civil Engineer with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. He's going to talk to us about the Rio Grande.
Good evening, Mayor and council members there. We've got a presentation for you this evening just on the river channel. I don't know if folks are familiar with kind of where the Corrales Siphon crosses the Rio Grande, just at the end of the Siphon Road. There, we've seen quite a bit of erosion during the spring runoff of 2023 here, and the river's migrating westwardly towards the levee system and the drains. And so what we're going to talk about tonight is a project that we have planned to do to protect the levee system. And got a little bit of an outline here, just, talk about our federal authority to work on the Rio Grande River system, a little bit of background and why we're doing this project. Just a little bit on the river conditions and the trends that we're seeing in this area. Talk about some of the project components, what's involved with the work and the schedule. And then also, this is kind of a short-term response to kind of what's been happening on the river. And then talk about a long-term work. And there's just a photo here just of another area upstream here where we've had similar problems. And you see the river, it's going from, I guess, the lower right to the or lower left to upper right, just it's kind of flowing that way. And, there's erosion and side channels, and just shows some of the kind of the river features and then the infrastructure adjacent to the rivers. Next slide. Just a little bit, reclamations authorized under the Flood Control Acts of 1948 and 1950 that authorized a lot of the engineering works on the Middle Rio Grande system that include all the flood and sediment control dams, Cochiti, Jemez, Abiquiu, the river system, and the levee system. And then what we do is maintain the river system from Velarde down to Caballo Dam. It's about 260 miles there. So we take care of the river channel. They're, making sure it moves water and sediment downstream effectively. And then, we also have responsibilities under the Endangered Species Act. Our partners under Middle Rio Grande include Jason and his folks at the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, and also the Corps of Engineers. They have flood responsibilities as well as irrigation deliveries. So. And, we do have, again, just legal considerations. And then the past, there, right at the inception of the Flood Control Acts in 1948 and 1950, there was a lot of problems with flooding and drought and sedimentation. So the river was channelized, that whole section, between Velarde and Caballo, between the 1950s and 70s. There was a lot of work to rehabilitate the irrigation system there. The diversion dams were rehabilitated in partnership with MRGCD under a contract. And then again, there was a lot of flood and sediment control infrastructure like dams, coachity, to help manage sediment, reduce flood flows. And right now we're kind of do more O&M on the system. So that's kind of what we do here. And it's basically to be able to pass the 2-year return flow through the system effectively without any problems. There's other factors, we've been in a long-term drought. There's the 1938 Rio Grande Compact between the 3 states, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas, which there's certain delivery requirements between Colorado and New Mexico at Otoe, and then, New Mexico down, or Texas down at Elephant Butte there. And then there's other federal laws that, we have to adhere to. There's the 1973 Endangered Species Act, which covers, fish and wildlife species that are endangered and listed, the National Environmental Policy Act, and Clean Water Act. So these are things that kind of affect how we do our work and what we have to consider. So, and just a little bit about the spring runoff this year. It was a pretty large volume event there. It was 169% of the 30-year median. And we've had the past 3 years prior to that, going back to 2020, we'd been in low runoff years or droughts. So the peak flows out of Cochiti were about 5,400 CFS. That translated down to Albuquerque and San Felipe Pueblo about 5,670 CFS and 5,100 CFS. And then inflow into Cochiti was right around 7,850 CFS. So flood control operations were in effect. They were storing water. They weren't able to release, the high flows down through the Middle Valley because of concerns, up and down the valley system. So we do a lot of monitoring. We fly the river. We do on-the-ground inspections. In this area between San Felipe Pueblo down to Alameda, there's a lot of erosion going in river bank erosion, and so we've observed that. And the pictures on the right, the upper right photo just shows the river. They're at the Corrales West Bend in 2021. And then the next picture just below it shows the river bend during this spring runoff. And as you can see, the river on the approach going from upstream to downstream, there's kind of like a fish hook there, and then it fish hooks back into the bend, and it's straightening out. So we saw a lot of bank erosion right at that bend during the runoff. Next slide. And so this is just the area here on the right, just shows a photo. And there's some blue line and a green line, just how much bank was lost there during the, this last spring runoff event. And it was on the order of about 140 feet. And there's still about 150 feet between the active bank and the levee system, which, does protect the valley, the community and the water delivery infrastructure to the west there. So, and just, some of the trends in the river is, the river's down cutting or incising. It's lowering its bed elevation. The river was, used to be a sandy channel. It's coarsening to gravels and cobbles. It's armoring up. There's clear water releases. Again, some of the upstream dams cut off the sediment supply. So, the river's eroding its floodplain and its channel. And then the older banks and terrace surfaces, they're made of fine material, and the riverbed is below the root zone of the bosky vegetation, so it is undercutting that. The vegetation isn't holding the banks together anymore. So, and the river, its plan form, or kind of how it looks, its shape is, it's used to be straight and braided in a shallow channel. And it's becoming more sinuous or meandering. It's narrow, deeper, and faster. And then there's kind of these point bars and meander bends. Next slide. So this just shows some photos here from, on the left from 1996 through 2023. And, you can see on, in the mid 90s, the river was kind of straight and, shallow and a lot of sand. And then, as you can see, it's been a lot of changes in those meander bends and point bars set up. There's kind of a meander belt width, and the levees kind of contain the meanders, but, the rivers want to get outside of that. So, we do have to do some work. Now I can talk a little bit about the short term. This is kind of what's going on in the river and kind of why we're doing what we have to do. But this is what we propose to do. The figure on the right just shows a conceptual diagram, and, we would put what we call a rock riprap windrow on top of the bank. And then in anticipation that the river would erode into it, and then the rock would launch and line the bank line and stop the erosion. It's an indirect approach, but it will stop the erosion. We do have a long-term project plan here, probably in the next couple of years, that we would implement here, and we would do kind of a different approach, and I could talk about that a little bit later. If you could go to the next slide. So just a little bit about this rock windrow is, like I said, it'll self-launch as a river kind of, if it starts meandering and migrating and eroding there, and launch and stop the bank erosion. We looked at the quantities of material that we would need to line the bank, from the top of the bank down to the toe of the bank there, and then also considered, there's kind of a scour that develops, so it has enough material to line the bank there. It'll cover a length of about 560 feet of bank line there on the west side. And it's comprised, the windrow is comprised of rock material, 1.5 to 2 feet in diameter, and it'll be about 2.7 cubic yards per linear foot. When it's launched, we'll go out and stake it, based on the current location of the bend, knowing that it's changing. And then we'll also need to clear the top of the bank for about 50 feet there. So, and there will be some local impacts and stuff like that. Next slide. And just the area there in blue kind of shows the project footprint there. We'll use that as staging and access, and the area in blue and shows kind of that cleared 50-foot width that we talked about there. So we'll have to clear that of all vegetation and stuff. These areas will need to be closed to the public and any recreationalists due to safety concerns, just with the equipment there. And just the figure on the right just shows kind of some of our design information. We are getting ready to start construction. It would probably be in the next several weeks there that we would like to get started there. So a little bit more information, just this is the access road. There's 528, Highway 528, and then also the Corrales Road down to the Siphon Road. So we'll be coming off that road, off 528, and then we'll be hauling. We have kind of a rock material stockpile location. It's kind of up there just north of Bernalillo there on the east side of the river. So we'll be hauling there and then across 550 and then down 528 to the project site. So we'll be hauling and placing material. The total material is like 1,500 cubic yards of material. So it'll probably take a month or two to haul and place it directly there. So and then, like I said, we plan to get started in the early part of November and hopefully be done by December. We'll need to close the areas. We are working. One of our public involvement person will issue a press statement. We do recognize that this windrow, it's a temporary feature, but it will be a walking hazard, and we'd like to discourage the public from standing near it or standing by it or on it there, and we'll look at trying to get some signage to discourage anybody, getting around that area. And I think I showed earlier that bend is kind of straightening out, and we saw that towards the end of the runoff. The erosion was not going laterally, but was going more downstream towards the end of the runoff. So it could just we could possibly not see any more erosion, but this isn't an exact science, so that's why we're putting this in. And then we do have plans for a long-term project here. We call this our River Mile 199 project, and goes all the way down to the Harvey Jones outfall. There's 3 bends that we're going to look at doing a project, and I'll give you a little bit of a conceptual perspective of what those projects would be there. And it just shows this is the area, and there's 3 bends there on the upper right of this slide here. Just shows the bend that we're talking about. We would do a bank line there, and then on the opposite side of that, we would do kind of like a high flow channel or a secondary channel to move some of the flows away from the eroding bank line and reconnect the floodplain. And then there's another bend on Sandia Pueblo lands. It's BB 343. We would do a bank protection project there. We've been using what we call bioengineered bank lines. There's some rock toe protection, and then we slope back the material with coir fabric or fabric encapsulated soil lifts with vegetation. And it's more of a gentler slope, and it also, there's some vegetation that's holding the bank together. And then these side channels just provide good habitat and reconnection with the floodplain, potentially creating wetlands and stuff like that. So, but we're working on the designs and the environmental approvals and the budgeting for that, this year and potentially next year. So we probably would have a fall start of 2025. And so that means that windrow that we're proposing would be in place for 1 to 2 years. And then we'd like to get all that material and then use it for this project, this long-term project. So if it doesn't launch, we would do that. And there's like a 50-50 chance that the river is going to stop eroding to the west. But, if I could predict that, I'd be a millionaire. So, and that's all for that. And then if there's any questions, this picture just shows that, we've had similar bank erosion problems and these bends set up there, as the channel's changing upstream. This is on Santa Ana Pueblo, and just on the left just shows the finished bank line, and there's some of those fabric encapsulated soils. There's some slope. We planted vegetation there on the bank line, and then here's one of those secondary channels on the lower right, just opposite of this bank line. But we would do a similar strategy through this area, through the Corrales area, and on Sandia Pueblo. And yeah, these problems are persisting, from Cochiti down to North Albuquerque. This is just more of things that happened in the 70s and 80s, with all the changes on the system and cutting off the sediment supply. So some of these problems are just kind of what you'd see in any river, that's this stuff's going on. And yeah, we've been in boom or bust with droughts and flooding, and we'll see. We might have a drought next year. We may have a big runoff, and so with that, I'll open it up to questions. Or
So let's, Councilor Waldman.
3 quick questions, if I could. There are those in Southern Corrales, when they hear riprap, they think of asphalt and reusing asphalt. I just want to be clear, these are all going to be rocks on the surface. Can you tell me the status of the Alvaro Dam project, where that stands?
Sure, and I was talking to Jason about this earlier, that there's been some challenges with the contractor and stuff, and kind of they have unique capabilities, and so they're grouting and they're redoing the face plates on the dam. But there's been some delays, unfortunately, due to the contractor's performance. Our management's looking into it. Our regional director is meeting with them and talking about seeing what options. Yeah, we definitely.
The time frame when it might be completed?
I'm not directly responsible for that, but I've heard 2026. But they're redoing the faceplate, they're grouting the dam. It's pretty porous material and stuff like that. It's a hazardous situation, and they also need to do the spillway channel as well. So this is a big project for our agencies.
Yeah. And the last question is probably unfair, but the status of the Supreme Court case on the 3 states?
Jason could probably answer that better than I'm not in the middle of those negotiations. And depending on who's the judge and the attorney.
Councilor Knight.
Perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. So the construction that you reviewed tonight, does that go hand in hand with the proposed new siphon that MRGC is going to be doing?
We've been working with MRGC on the siphon. We've reviewed that, and we've helped out in the past with the bank line stabilization. This shouldn't impact that, and Jason can talk more about their plans for the siphon. It's not really directly part of Reclamation's infrastructure, so our authorities.
Okay, thank you.
Stuart.
Thank you, Councilor, Mayor and Councilors, and thank you for your presentation tonight. But I've got a concern about the riprap. Why are we going to incur more erosion before that is implemented, and why not go in and stabilize the bank now?
Yeah, we needed to typically it takes a couple years to plan a project there, and you got to collect data and do designs, and then you got to get environmental approvals, and that can take 6 months to a year. We don't have the luxury of time here, and so we decided to do this, and it's not in the active channel, or it's above the ordinary high water mark from a Clean Water Act perspective. So we're not touching the river, so we don't have to worry about endangered species. And we're not, we're not working below the ordinary high water mark, so we don't have to get a Clean Water Act permit. So we're trying to get this implemented before the next spring runoff. And the prediction is an El Nino kind of weather pattern and an abundant snowpack there, so we could see similar problems. So this was kind of our best short-term response to the conditions and the need right there. The long-term for the long-term project that we plan to do in a couple of years, it'll be more permanent.
Okay, how about the environmental impact of clearing all the vegetation out for a 50-foot swath? How many, are you gonna have to take out cottonwoods as well?
Yeah, we worked with our environmental staff. We worked under DEPA and under Clean Water Act, and we plan to avoid the larger cottonwoods, anything greater than 2 foot in diameter, try to work around it there. So, but yeah, there will be some impacts. And then I guess ultimately, if the erosion persists, those cottonwoods are going to fall in the river. That area is disconnected from overbank flooding, so we're not seeing new cottonwoods coming up there. They are coming up on the point bars and the lower surfaces within the active channel.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Burkett.
I just have a similar question about the long-term plan. Looking at these channels, it looks like we're going to give up a fair amount of land for those, and trails and access to the river with these 3 large channels. 2 of them aren't on our side, but one of them is. And I assume that once this project's done, then somebody will start looking at the next mile down the river, and we'll start slowly giving up piece by piece to these channels. Is that accurate, or is there anything we can do to avoid that from happening?
I know, yeah, you and Sandia Pueblo are both concerned about losing lands, and yeah, I think on the bends or the outer bank of the bends, we plan to hold those alignments, so there'll be no more lands lost there. Those secondary channels that we build, hopefully it'll improve the habitat there and take some of the flows off those bends there, some of the pressure on those bends and stuff. We don't anticipate the public use and the trail system that we would finish the project. We'd have these side channels, and folks could walk adjacent to them, once we're done, enjoy the area. So it shouldn't change it should improve things for the public there, as far as aesthetically and then environmentally.
So I'd like to ask a question about the windrows.
Sure.
So these are going to be 4 feet high
Yeah.
and 19 feet wide at the base,
Yes, sir.
and they're going to be 2 to 3 foot sized boulders.
Yes,
And
sir.
they're planned to fail if more erosion occurs, correct? It's going to fall down and stabilize that bank.
Yeah.
So we need to work out a safety plan, because as much as we try to keep people away from that, there'll be somebody who will go down there. I mean, that's going to
Yes.
happen. Do you have somebody who can work with the village to help us develop a safety plan? We've made huge investments in getting equipment to help us do that, and we just need to have some cooperation with your organization to make sure that nobody gets injured, because it won't stop in December. I mean, you're talking about having it last another year or 2, correct?
Yeah, and we'll look into getting signage, at least to warn the public, and we'll work with the fire chief and with MRGCD on any safety if we need to set up another meeting.
But I think signage is great, but I think somebody's going to jump in, not jump in, but fall in. And we're concerned about that, because our fire department, our firefighters go out there and rescue these people. And they did a whole bunch of rescues last summer. And so we need to figure out a safer way to deal with these. If you have somebody who can offer some advice, because we're concerned.
Okay, yeah, I'll
develop a plan before it happens.
I'll talk to our management and relay that this is a concern there for the village, and we'll see what we can do, as far as continuing to work, as long as we have a presence here.
Yeah, and we've talked to Jason also about signage to try to keep people away, but there's always someone who just doesn't seem to get the message.
Yeah, I'm talking with you and the fire chief. We're very familiar with the issues and the challenges, and yeah, we don't have, our agency doesn't have too much regulatory authority and stuff, so, but.
Yes, sir, Councilor Burkett.
Just something related to that. I mean, it makes me a little nervous too, just from rescue access standpoint too. We're going to have 150 feet of river that we can't get to easily to rescue someone if they were pinned against a bank or something. So,
They get pinned against the bank, we don't have to worry about them.
yeah.
That's kind of a,
Yeah, it'll be tough to retrieve too.
So, yeah, but that's, we want to try to avoid that situation. And I know Anthony and Jason have talked about this, and they probably talked to you about it, and that's our short-term focus, is we don't want to have somebody get hurt or
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the river is a hazardous environment. There's jetty jacks and, there's plunge pools and things below dams.
We
and
live
stuff
here,
like
yeah.
that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming.
Mayor,
Yes, Stuart.
well, just kind of following up on that. So if the riprap comes down partially, how stable is the rest of the riprap that's going to be remaining? And also, given the flows that we had this year, is there any chance that it's not going to guarantee that it's going to stabilize the bank?
We're fairly certain, that we've used the same strategy at other locations, whether it's self-launching or doing a rock trench or a revetment, and the quantity of materials sufficient to stop the erosion. We looked at the trajectory of the band and where it would anticipate to be going. So I think we're okay. If it's launched, yeah, it could still be a hazard. We'll monitor that. If there's any problems, we can come out and try to address any.
Yeah, but I mean, if only you get a partial launch, say only a half of it comes down, what's the stability on the remaining what's left on the bank?
That's a good question.
Would you have to come out and take a look at it and
Yeah.
make sure that you stabilize the bank or what's remaining there?
Yeah.
Okay, and so we're going to lose basically that portion to recreation, is that correct?
For a while.
I mean, through spring, or are we looking through spring? Is that basically what?
Well, we've been talking about a method to mitigate that to some degree, and we're working with MRGCD, and we'll discuss that some more when Jason talks.
Does that mean that you'll also come out and then rehabilitate vegetation wise? What's, if the riprap is activated?
For the long term, we will do planning on the slope of the new bankland. So the short term, we're just kind of trying to hold ground there and not allow it to become a bigger problem and threaten the levee or the Corrales main canal or anywhere else.
So is anybody going to be able to recreate from the siphon area at all?
I would say no.
So it's basically closed
They have to
for,
go around. They're going to have to go around, and we're talking about trying to figure out a way to make them go around, or not make them, but protect them so they can go around. But
Yeah,
it's got to be planned. And this is, they're trying to, how much of the riverbank have we lost to erosion?
140 feet just in
And
one
how far
season.
and how far is it from where it is eroded to the levee?
150 feet.
So if we have another season like last season, our levee will be,
well, I
Yes.
understand. Yeah. I just
so we
want
need to do something that will stop it. And then we can deal with the, I guess you could say, the mitigating factors of getting down there to hike and bike or whatever you want to do. And that's a discussion that our fire chief and Jason Kasuga are having. And also the Bureau of Reclamation will be involved with. I mean, they don't get off the hook either. I mean, we're all in this.
Yeah, we're here committed for the long
Yeah.
term. We got our authority and responsibilities.
So it's a team effort.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Ms. Padilla, thank you very much. Mr. Kasuga, your turn.
Mayors, councilors, I don't actually have a presentation today, so my update is verbal, but my intent is to be quick, but based on the comments back and forth, I do think there's a little bit for me to address related to the Bureau of Reclamation's project, because it does happen to be within lands that MRG City manages. So just related to the safety piece, just know that MRG City is working on that. At the end of the day, there's a question about will there be recreation, will people be able to access the siphon? At the end of the day, yes. The expectation is will likely run up against limitations on the authorities and what reclamation can do, but that doesn't stop MRGCD and our ability to create the safest environment around lands that we manage. And so reclamation is doing their job related to bank line stabilization and river maintenance. We will partner with them on, I think there are some safety elements that they should assist in, but there will probably be some that MRGCD in coordination with the Village of Corrales will have to take ourselves, like guiding people away from walking that area, guiding them up onto the levee so that they can walk around the rock, and then guiding them back down to land safely at the Corrales siphon area. So my engineering staff is looking at that as well. As the mayor talked about, I am in conversation with the chief and have talked to Mr. Robert Padilla about getting together and having conversations and just balance up what we can do. Having been a former Fed and working with Robert Padilla at the Bureau of Reclamation, I do recognize the limitations that they will run up to on what they can spend their federal dollars on. And the goal is MRGCD in partnership with the village will be able to step in and fill that gap, especially if we feel like something is less safe than we desire it to be. So I offer that. There's those conversations, and I offer to come back and any additional actions that MRGCD would need to take in partnership with the village, we can present on that in the future if we need to, as we identify them. So that's just a little follow on to the last conversation. Still in the general area related to Corrales Siphon, I purposely don't have presentation and maps for you right now, mainly because I'm not at a point where I can present those. We are currently working through, we have awarded to our contractor on time based on the schedule I gave you the last time I presented. The district was awarded, and we finally do have access to the Water Trust Board funds. All of the paperwork is in place, so the district actively has access to that. The contract was awarded to the engineering firm in September, and that we are on schedule. What I will say, and I will repeat what I said last time, it is an expectation that the district will pump for one more season, and I reported that prior. We will have to use those pumps in 2024. We will not have access to gravity delivery in Corrales. So the expectation is if we have a great spring runoff, I expect we will be able to deliver very reliably with the pumps that like we did this year. But as the river goes down, and with the lack of being able to store water, when the river gets to a certain point, we can't functionally turn the pumps on without breaking them, and that's what happened. If I had enough water in the river, the pumps would be on. There's not physically enough water in the river to turn those pumps on now. So where we sit schedule-wise is when I come back and present, the final alignment will be done, and we'll be working through the design drawings. But before we do that final alignment, we are in coordination with the Pueblo of Sandia right now. As you can imagine, this project, we are going to be directional boring. So all 90% of this work is going to happen underground by underground earth machines drilling a tunnel and lining a pipe. But what that creates is two large work surfaces on the Village of Corrales side at the siphon, and then on the Pueblo of Sandia side. And so we are working through the lands issues and the coordinating on the amount of property that we need. And that just requires us to be sensitive to cultural implications, talking with their tribal staff, talking with, I will probably be going to their tribal council as we make a little bit further direction. We're working really hard right now with the tribal staff to see if we can keep all of the work needed within the easement that MRGCD already has on tribal land, which would be the best. It's just the size and scope of the project is very large, and the work area and the pipe and the materials to lay out are large. So there's things for us to coordinate with. And once we have that done and we've checked those boxes, I will come and present maps and drawings that kind of show that a little more. I just don't feel comfortable doing that, not having the Pueblo sign off on how their property will potentially be used to facilitate this project. So the expectation is we will be hopefully entering construction around this time next year, and then the siphon will be operable come March of 25. And that is the previous schedule that I presented on that when I was here last couple of months ago, that we would have to pump both in 23 and 24 with a return to gravity in 25. And I believe that we've hit all of those marks, all those steps administratively to get the loan and to get the grant dollars through the Water Trust Board have been met. We've followed every step, submitted every document. We now have the money, and we're moving forward. So I know that's not ideal. I know that we have farmers in the room who have gone through a really difficult time with the pumps not being able to operate. I'm very much aware and empathetic to that. And what I will say is that I've been working on this diligently since the problem was handed to me. And right now, the district has followed through on getting the funding, getting the contractor, working with the Pueblo. The project is going to get constructed. And my expectation is we'll be back to gravity operation in 2025.
Yes, Stuart.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilor. So with the pumps, are they delivering at the same rate that we would get with the siphon?
The Mayor, Councilors, this year we were able to deliver up to 40 CFS in the canal. And at least based on my time at the district historically, 40 CFS outside of charging the system has typically been what can operate in through Corrales based on the amount of acreage that you have. So yes, I believe that the pumps are operating as best they can for mechanical pumps, and the siphon will deliver the original amount of water it was supposed to.
Okay. I think all the councilors got an email from Bonnie Gonzalez today, or a couple of days ago. But I'd like to read at least a portion of her email, because they feel like the Corrales farmers are getting the short end of the stick when it comes to water. But what she basically says in her second paragraph, the volume of food produced in the village is well documented. Seed to Need consistently reports 60 to 70,000 pounds of fresh produce delivered to food banks and pantries each season. The Corrales Growers Market reports customer counts of 119,544 and sales of over $1 million. Digital benefits at the market for women, infants, children, and seniors has been implemented and is reaching more at-risk community members. The future potential for increasing our position as a food hub looks promising. We are not using irrigation water frivolously. We are producing food for healthy New Mexican communities. Corrales farmers are tired of being bumped to the end of the line and would appreciate if our government would step up and challenge MRGCD's dismissal of the value created by our water usage. I'm just, your comments or thoughts?
So, Mayor, councilors, I find it hard to consider MRGCD as dismissing you when for 1,000 acres, we've gone to the state and got a $9.5 million grant to construct a project for the benefit of 1,000 acres. We understand it's an important 1,000 acres, and I'm committed to doing it. But I did a $5 million project for 5,600 acres of drought-ridden property, and so in Socorro County. And so I think the same amount of vigor that we took to get the grant to do that project is equal to this. I think it's inaccurate to believe that we're not doing this project as fast as humanly possible to get federal funding, to get state funding, to do the design, to do those things. So I think it's inaccurate and relatively unfair to believe that the staff and my team are not working as hard as we can. And I get it. I understand it's on my list. And if you saw my 5-year forecast, one of the top projects I had on that when I presented to my board at the beginning of this was the Corrales Siphon project. The district pushed forward needing to get funding just to be able to raise the mill levy so that we had funding to be able to offset the loan that the district's getting to facilitate the $6.5 million worth of grant money. So the district is taking out a loan, is going to be paying on a loan amount so that we can get the $6.5 million to do the grant project. So all of that takes accounting work, it takes engineering work, it takes grant work, it takes going to the state legislature and advocating on your behalf. And at the end of the day, we have the grant dollars, the project's going forward, and I'm exactly on schedule with what I told you we would be at the last time I presented to you. So that's why I say I'm empathetic, but I do, and I understand that there is a frustration to the community. But the team that I have and the current leadership of the district, I've been at the district for 8 years. I'm not the one who ignored the problem, but I am the CEO that is dealing with it and dealing with it as fast as I can. And I think my time here presenting to you and to the public is I've taken every reasonable step to prioritize this for the community. And I continue to do that.
Yeah, and I understand that too. To follow up on Councilor Waldman's comment too about the tri-state court case that's going on with water and irrigation, it seems to me that if New Mexico comes out on the short end of that, it's going to impact our irrigation quite a bit.
Yeah, so councilors, what I feel comfortable enough to saying is the Texas v. New Mexico as it sits right now exists from Caballo south. What I can tell you, and from the legal opinion I have from our lawyers and from conversations with the state, is the primary impact to that is to the lower Rio Grande, not the middle Rio Grande. The middle Rio Grande needs to do what it has always had to do, which is meet our compact deliveries to Elephant Butte. So the middle valley of New Mexico and everything north of Elephant Butte to Otoe Gauge in northern New Mexico, none of that's changed for us. Our biggest issue is that New Mexico is not meeting the obligation to Elephant Butte. And so now there's two different delivery points. There's the delivery point to Elephant Butte, which affects all of us in the Middle Valley and up to Otoe. And then there's the delivery point to the Texas state line now, but that is completely only on the lower Rio Grande. So my message to our farmers into the Middle Valley and to the people that help manage and make decisions on the river and that I work with is we need to find balance on our environmental concerns and our agricultural and our municipal concerns, because without delivering water to Elephant Butte, we can't store water. And quite honestly, you can attribute to this year by effectively not being able to store water. And this time it was because El Vado is being constructed, which we want to be constructed. It's going slow and we're unhappy about that, but we are sure happy the federal government is spending the $200 million to do that and not New Mexico. But had we had El Vado, Corrales would have had water year round. I mean, there was enough water in spring runoff to store. The pumps would have never turned off, and we would have delivered water the whole season to Corrales. So,
Do you anticipate then there's any kind of a chance that they're going to meter the system?
there are other things, Counselor, in play related to that. I think at the end of the day, the system is generally metered already from a macro standpoint, from having the Otoe gauge to Elephant Butte. I do believe there are things going on around the settlement of tribal Indian water rights and those kinds of things that will bring more clarity to water rights within the Middle Valley. But that is something that has a long way to go, and that process has only started. So I do not believe metering every turnout is on the short horizon.
Thank you, Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. How many times did Corrales get water this year through the Sakias?
Counselor, it's not something I have on me right now, but I can get you the answer to that.
Okay, and what I was follow up with this question is, I was on Rio Grande the other day and there was lots of water in their acequias. And I was wondering why Corrales doesn't have any water at this point and the North Valley has. It seemed like a lot of water in their acequias.
So Counselor, Mayor, again, the water that Corrales gets by gravity is diverted north of the town of Bernalillo and on the east side of the river. And that water then travels in the system of canals on the east side of the river, and all the water that comes into Corrales has to come underneath the river historically through the Corrales siphon. There is no other way to get water into Corrales except the Corrales siphon. The Corrales siphon is broken, so the only other way to get water into Corrales is the pump station. The water situation in the Middle Valley is that the water dropped so low where maybe it was only running 4 to 6 inches deep that the intakes of the pumps couldn't even be submerged. And so we physically can't deliver the water because there's not enough water in the river to operate the pumps. So if when Corrales has gravity again, Corrales would have access to water even in the lowest water time of the year. But until we return it to a gravity system, it's just physically impossible.
Thank you.
Councilor Woolman.
First of all, thank you for moving forward with replacing the diesel pumps with the electric pumps. I know it's a big deal. The contract that you have to build the siphon, the company, farmers are really dependent, obviously, on getting that siphon up and running. The delay until March of 2025 is unfortunate, but I think they understand the process. My question is, are there any penalties in that contract that if it's not delivered by that time, that there are increased penalties on the company that's going to do that? I know you're confident so far, all the things that are falling into place in your schedule. I'm just concerned that when we get to the point where we actually build the siphon, and if that schedule slips, are there any penalties on the company?
Mayor, Councilor, what you're talking about, the contract that we awarded is to the engineering company, so it's not actually out to bid yet. So this will be, because of the size of the project, and we have state funding that will have to go up to competitive bid. But what you're talking about, sir, is liquidated damages in the construction. When the project does go out to bid, the construction contract will have liquidated damages based on the schedule. Obviously, the contractor knows will get to look at the schedule and see if it's reasonable. But once they agree to a schedule, there will be typically any construction contract liquidated damages associated with not being able to deliver on items that are in their control.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jason. I really appreciate you coming.
Mayor, councilors, thank you so much. I will just say one more time, we are working as hard as we can. It sits at one of the highest priorities on the construction project that the district has. And if anybody has any questions from the councilors or the staff, Mayor, your team, I'm available. I know I have farmers and folks out here in the public. I will make myself available outside of the room so that we don't get into the meeting and have follow-up questions based on your letters.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
thank you. One more question for me.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Based on Councilor Knight's question, I was rethinking about what you talked about. That Angostura Dam is what you made mention. Is that where we get our water from?
Councilor, Mayor, yes.
Okay.
The water is diverted at Angostura, so north of Bernalillo.
Right there on Algodones. So, but we get our water, and you were saying that the people down a little bit more towards Rio Grande, they get it off the Rio Grande River, I guess, they get theirs. So I was trying to differentiate between what Angostura sends us and where it is that we're able to not be able to continue to get it.
So there are actually two siphons in this section of the river, Councilor. There's the Corrales siphon, and then there's the Atrisco siphon. The Atrisco siphon is located closer to Central Avenue along the river. So all water that is delivered to this area north of Pueblo of Isleta is diverted at Angostura. All that water comes down the west side, the east side of the river, and then to move it to the west side is done by these two siphons. It's done by the Corrales siphon to deliver to this area, and then to deliver it to the west side and into the South Valley, that water goes to the Atrisco siphon. And so there's two separate siphons right now, and one of them is catastrophically damaged, and the other one is not.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You let us know if we can help. Oh, Anthony, did you want to ask him a question? Are you going to, okay, all right. Okay, thank you, Jason. And thank you. Thank you, Mr. Padilla, I appreciate it. Now we have administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. First on the report is Tanya talking about some higher numbers than we hoped for.
Tanya's talking. Tanya's talking.
Thank you, Mayor, Council Administrator Curry. Sorry, I had a little bit of difficulty figuring out how to unmute tonight. Yes, I'm going to give an update. Let's start with flu. So flu in the state of New Mexico is still low, except for in the metro area where we're high to moderate to high levels of flu right now. So once again, if you haven't got that flu shot, it's time to do so. If we go into COVID, today we had 101 people in the hospital with COVID. 6 of them were pediatric, and we had 9 in the ICU. We're running about 59 per 100,000 from this last state report dated 10/16, 59 in 100,000, last reported 10/16, that have confirmed, lab confirmed COVID cases, not the home cases, and they don't report if you just call into your doctor, if you don't get a test at a doctor's office. Statewide, our positivity rate now is 18.8%. Sandoval County's positivity rate is 19.8%. One of the other numbers that they just updated on COVID was 16.6% of the people who entered the hospital, this is running total from the beginning, have died from COVID. So that's a little bit of a higher number. We're still not at an extremely high number within New Mexico, even though every single death is a tragic loss. And Sandoval County is the highest for their 23-24 COVID vaccine at 4% of the population as of 10/16 getting their COVID booster, the 23-24 vaccine. Please look at your schedule, get your vaccine. I am helping people locate. I did try another pharmacy to try to bring a drive-through clinic and partner. And when I talked to the regional pharmacy rep for a large pharmacy, Lynn Sieverts hooked me up with them. They're not getting enough vaccine in right now to even be able to consider partnering with us. I will keep trying, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Councilor Murray?
Yeah, thank you. Tanya, you said that the local pharmacies are having trouble getting enough vaccine. Is that going to impact the ability for somebody to make an appointment?
So what I was told by this one pharmacy group that it reached out and was willing to try to partner with us is they are getting they buy through a supplier. They don't buy directly because of the way they're set up. They don't buy directly from Pfizer or Moderna or Novavax. And they are saying they're supposed to get like 100 doses per pharmacy 1 week of Pfizer and then Moderna, and then it's not always coming in. I don't know if that's because of the manufacturers or if it's because of the secondary supplier. I have had some people that have said, they haven't been able to schedule for 2 to 3 weeks out, but I know there are some smaller pharmacies in the area that do have them. And I think they're probably buying direct. And they probably have less people coming in because you think of going to the big box stores. If you're going to go out grocery shopping, you might as well get your vaccine. CVS is not doing any walk-in appointments. It's all got to be scheduled online, where they were doing walk-ins, but they're not. I've heard Walgreens is not doing walk-ins. So it's a little bit different in this commercial rollout. But I'm here I've helped people get scheduled, given them phone numbers if they're looking for Moderna or Pfizer at one or the other, so they can get in touch with it. And we still do have access to the 317 bridge for the uninsured. And I'll keep trying. I'm hoping that we'll finally, I'd like to be able to get into January and we don't need to do a vaccine drive-through clinic because, Corrales is almost all boosted and Sandoval County is in the 90%. I don't know what the cause is.
Yeah, also, maybe I missed this. How about the RSV vaccine? Is that really available?
It is. So RSV is available. A lot of pharmacies do require you to get it. One of the local pharmacies, not here in Corrales, but a local big box pharmacy. My parents actually went in to get their RSV and they were told they had to have a prescription for it. I sent them to another pharmacy that didn't require a prescription. And I think that's probably they were worried about reimbursement, because one of the other issues is I was told about 20% of the insurance companies still haven't set up their billing platform for the COVID vaccine. So some of the pharmacies are having to turn some people away. Medicare, Medicaid, easy. That one's done. I've had no problems on press insurance. I think it's some of the other smaller insurances people can have, but no one would give me the name of those companies. But you should be able to get your RSV shot. I do know that the senior flu shot, some of the clinics are having trouble getting in some of those. And there's also the quadrivalent shot, which is appropriate for seniors. And there was some back order on those as well. I'm trying to really keep a handle, but I can always track down a place for someone.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Tanya, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask Melanie to give a quick update on the Animal Services building construction.
Thank you, Ron, Mayor, and councilors. We don't have a lot of new information for you this week from the last meeting. As you know, the project was red tagged the weekend of Harvest Festival. So Facility Build is currently working on getting drawings from Horizon Structure that need to be stamped by a New Mexico architect. So that's what's holding it up. And then we need a new set of permits once those drawings are done. So they said they are estimating about another 8 weeks until the project is done.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, if I could, so that's 8 weeks to get all the paperwork in place and the state sign off on it?
Yes.
And then is there an estimate how long it would be for the work to be finished?
They did not give me an estimate. If looking at their kind of update that they send out every Friday, it looks like a lot of the stuff is like 80 to 90% done. So we're waiting on stuccoing of the building, and all of the outside plumbing work has been signed off on. So we're good on that. So it's really just the stuccoing and then kind of putting everything back together on the inside. They do have to take down the walls of the inside of the structure to have the plumbing and electrical inspected.
So the earliest would be first of the year or somewhat later?
I think it's probably safe to estimate first of the year, just to be on the safe side.
Thank you.
Now, we may find out something Thursday because we have a
We
gym
do-
meeting.
We do
and
have a
we can
meeting with them on
ask,
Thursday.
Robert then, see what his thoughts are. I think, did he give us an estimate also? Yeah. Okay, all right, sorry.
Speaking of gymnasium, we have our regular meeting on Thursdays, but right now we're looking at a soft opening of the gymnasium in December. And we hope to be playing basketball in the new gymnasium in January. And the gym experienced some vandalism last night or over the weekend in the new portion of the building. Patrols are be checking it a little closely. The vandalism was in the part of the bathroom, the girls' locker room, and there was a small amount of graffiti that was in there. The tiles will cover that up, but we've intensified the police patrols will be going on, and also we'll be beefing up our approach to the alarm protection cameras, et cetera, that we'll have on the gymnasium. With the amount of investment that the village has put in over there, we anticipate that we want to have the best security that we can have on it. And so we're looking at that so that we can build that into the gymnasium as we go forward. I wanted to report on Balloon Fiesta. I think most of you saw a lot of balloons over Corrales. And it was one thing that I'll mention to you before, but I want to make clear to you again that the Balloon Fiesta is so appreciative of the village of Corrales and its residents. There were a number of balloons that found white X's or white sheets that were laying in their yards. And the thing that is important for everyone here in the village to know is that as the city of Albuquerque continues to grow more to the south of Balloon Fiesta Park, the village of Corrales and the city of Rio Rancho become more and more important to the Balloon Fiesta. And so the Balloon Fiesta, I would say almost every morning during pilots briefing, all pilots are required to attend a pilots briefing or they cannot fly. And they're checked and double checked that they're at the Balloon Fiesta pilots briefing. And when that pilots briefing takes place, Corrales is mentioned every day, at least once. And they talk about being courteous to the property owners, be noticeable of the agriculture, the livestock that we have here in the village. And so as the village has built a reputation and a relationship with the Balloon Fiesta over the years, I think it continues to get stronger because the Balloon Fiesta really appreciates the village and what we do for it. And for the people who don't want balloons near their property or near their livestock, those are noted on the maps that the pilots have with them in the basket and also every day at the pilots briefing. But I think it's important for you to know as leaders of the village that the Balloon Fiesta really appreciates what the village does, what the residents do, and continue to try to build that relationship and the respect and trust that the village has for balloons and vice versa. So we have, there are a number of balloonists that live in the village. I think there's about 7 at last count. The owner of the largest repair station for balloons in the state lives in the village of Corrales. We have John Parra, the fire department, who flies balloons and sometimes has acted as a safety officer for the Balloon Fiesta. And so the village is well represented per capita as far as the number of balloons that fly from here and live here. So that would. Stuart has a question. Yeah.
Oh, Stuart, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilor. So I know with Balloon Fiesta, I thought we heard an airboat out on the river, and I'm just curious, have we purchased the airboat that was,
Yes.
have we done that? And
Yes.
has the chief been out on the river since then? Or
We have. I don't think the airboat's arrived yet. And
But we have it. I mean, we purchased it.
yeah.
We just don't have possession of it, right?
Okay, I was just curious if that was the chief out playing around on the river.
Yeah.
No, he'll ask you though when he goes out.
He wants me to be a victim.
So that, as I've mentioned before, the balloons, one of the things that, one of the pilots that I was working with this year is a longtime friend and launch mate of mine, and he's from Tucson, Arizona, and Pagosa Springs. And he flew his balloon into the river 4 times this year. And it's a feat that you see a lot of balloons perform, and it's not necessarily easy because you have to overfly the river sometimes and come back in, and you have to be aware about all the other balloons around you. And so we're always happy to do a splash and dash and when there's water in the river, and to do a mud and thud when there is no water in the river. So, but the Balloon Fiesta says thank you to the village of Corrales. The last thing I wanted to mention, we're happy that we have people who continue to improve professionally in the village. And so Melanie and Sky went to clerk school this last week. And Melanie, at the end of her clerk school, this was her 3rd year. She's been here for a little over 2 years, but she's finished 3 years of clerk school. And so now she is a certified municipal clerk.
Oh, not quite yet.
Within a short period of time. So she is qualified.
It's coming.
She's qualified and it's coming up. And so, and what that does for the village is that this last session, there was and you can certainly spend some time questioning Melanie about it, but Melanie works, they spend a lot of time working on IPRA requests and how to handle them and managing time that it takes to do that. Melanie and Sky and the police department spend a lot of time working with Randy and Corey and the legal team over there to make sure that the IPRA requests are met for the village, so that we don't get ourselves into legal jams by not meeting and being timely on it. So, but it's an accomplishment that I'm glad that Melanie has finished, or is certainly she's certifiable at this point, and it's a good thing for the village and a good thing for our legal aspect and our professional approach that we like to take for our citizens. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Move on to Councilors Forum.
Mayor, can I ask a quick question?
Well, we're going, okay, sure.
Well, this one may be a discussion one, so, and I think this is the appropriate place for it. So I just have a quick question. There's a young lady who was reported missing, seen most recently in the village on Friday, that's all over social media. And I'm curious what role we play in that, from a police department, from a fire department, from just spreading the word to the public. Largely, I've seen that's been social media based. I haven't seen any sort of official communications. And so just as a father of young kids, I'm just curious what our protocol is for something along that line, since it's really happening right now.
Yeah, Councilor Burkett, Mayor and Council. So she's not an endangered missing person.
Correct.
She's a voluntary runaway. And so we followed the standard protocol as far as filing her this with the state DPS missing persons clearinghouse, notified all surrounding agencies, and we're forward in pushing out the message as much as we can as well. we're aware of the social media postings, and, you know, the more eyes that are out there, the better. But at this point, the only other thing that could be done in, you know, missing juvenile's case would be an Amber Alert, and this doesn't qualify for that since there's no, evidence of an abduction or endangerment.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, we'll move on to Councilors Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended a Zoom meeting for the Rio Metro Regional Transportation District again on Friday. And one of their main things that they talked about was they're getting together a study to consolidate both Rio Metro Regional Transportation District and the City of Albuquerque Transportation. And they hopefully that when these two combine, that there will be more service. And again, it's going to have to go through a study first. And they're both giving $150,000 for the study. Okay, another thing that they talked about was they continue to see rates of people using the Rail Runner going up to Santa Fe because of the decreased payment for those, for the rides. And then they just finished a $12 million maintenance facility in Espanola, and they're working on a new facility in Taos that's going to be costing $17 million. And they're going to have new officers starting next month. Another thing I just wanted to bring up was during my forum, I was asked about the night sky ordinances, and does the enforcement officer go out at night to check on complaints? Do you know anything about that?
If there's a complaint, I would assume that she would make the, but here,
Councilor, Mayor, Council. So normally we'll get the calls because we're the only ones who are answering the phone, in the middle of the night and responding. But what the police officers will do normally is take a photo and then forward it to Sherry, the code enforcement officer, with the complainant's name, address, information, and Sherry, the code enforcement officer, will do the follow-up on it. And I'm not aware of any enforcement action or citations being issued, but I believe she's had a lot of luck in just gaining voluntary compliance and engaging in educational encounters, because most of the people with the lights out of compliance just weren't aware.
Right. So they should call you instead of calling Sherry? Or
well,
what?
if it's during the day, then by all means call Sherry. But if it's while it's happening at night that they want to report it, we have no problem with the police officer going out, taking a look, snapping a picture, and coordinating with code enforcement.
Okay.
because you're right, Sherry's not driving around at nighttime. Councilor Waldman.
Mayor, I know this is out of order because it is a forum, but same thing, issue came up at my meeting as well. And they cited two locations. One was Wells Fargo Bank. Apparently the lights are still on and they're shining up. And the other was the elementary school. So those are the two that were cited during my comprehensive plan meeting. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll share the information with Sherry. Right? I mean, yeah, she can follow up on it, and yeah, we have to find the balance between the safety and security issues versus the night sky issues, but make sure everyone's on the same page. Right?
Thank you.
Yes,
I
Councilor
think
Knight.
when she was first hired, she
Yeah.
did go out at night and take pictures. So something has changed, because I know she used to do that.
She still will if somebody files a complaint. If she's aware of it, or if it's a repeat offender, she has said that she still does. So it's not so much a change that she's not still going out at night if she needs to. It's just, I think that we have a very willing and capable police force that will forward her the request if that is the more appropriate thing to do at the time.
Okay, thank you.
So a little bit of both, I guess.
Yes, sir, Councilor Alsop.
Thank you, Mayor. The comprehensive plan of development citizen input forum for residents of District 4 will be November 8th, 6 p.m. in the old gym, the rec center.
Councilor Murray.
Thank you. Well, Councilor Miera kind of had his hand up first. I'll defer to him.
Good, sir.
I didn't see him.
Okay. Oh, you didn't. Okay. So Again, last Friday, we had the Metropolitan Transportation Board meeting as well, kind of like what the Councilor Knight does. They're working on their 2025, 2045 transition plan, and they're doing a kickoff November 13th through the 15th. It'll be virtual. They're also doing a non-motorized study, which basically is going to focus on bicycles and pedestrians. They're looking for counts. I don't know how we can do that within the village, but it's something that maybe we ought to be thinking about, just see what we can get our numbers into or whatever. Also, they're hiring a transportation count aide. If anybody is qualified to do that kind of work, they're looking for a body. So go down and talk to Mr. Cog. The other part is that Mr. Montiel came back and about the qualification that NMDOT is requiring certification training for all their federal funding projects. And basically what it comes down to is the process is getting better because the state is responding to complaints. They are having training in Albuquerque, but anyway, basically, if we don't want to lose federal funding, this is only if we were receiving federal funding.
Right.
And if we fall into the inactive count, we would have to have somebody trained. But the good news is, Mr. Cox says that the entire area, we're below 2%, and we're not in any danger at all of being falling into that inactive category. Also, I also had the ability to watch the Zoom meeting with the Multi-Use Facility Committee. I found that very informative. And the fact that it was recorded on Zoom, put up on YouTube, and for people who couldn't make the meeting, I think it was a great asset for people to take advantage of. I'd like to urge that we do that for a lot of our committees if we can. Also, I asked Melanie about if the village had contacted Mr. Cog about doing the traffic study, and she said yes. She's talked to Bianca, and that's fine. And then also, lastly, I think I'm going to kind of go back to the bond issue that we have for the preservation or the farm preservation conservation. I was looking through the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission since we got the packet. And there's about a 5-acre parcel up north by, I think, Lepe Road. They just recently had a planning and zoning site development plan approved. It's 5.5 acres. We're losing that because, one, we probably couldn't purchase that property, or if we had the way to purchase that property, we could have if it was on the bond issue and the way the language is preserved. The way it is now, all we can do is farm preservation. We can't buy for open space. I think we're a little short-sighted on that, and we're losing property like that for development. Now, when I was looking at around here, there is another parcel that's across the ditch bank behind the Gonzalez property. There's like 6.5 acres. What happens when a property owner doesn't want to farm anymore? And what option does he have? If the village had the option to buy that property under the farm preservation, the way the original language was, it'd be, we could use the GO bond to do that, but the way it is now, we can't. So if we have properties that come up where the person is no longer wanting to farm it, we can't use the GO bond for that preservation. So I think we were a little short-sighted when we removed that language. So I just wanted to make sure that when people go to vote, I'm not going to oppose the GO bond. I think it's, we still got to do that. But I think next time, let's be a little bit more farsighted, and let's include purchasing for open space and so forth. Thank you.
Councilor Meara.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to announce that I'll be having a District 1 meeting for the comprehensive planning tomorrow night at the fire station up the hill at 6 o'clock. You're all invited. Even if you're not in District 1, you're welcome to come.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, mine's Thursday night, 6:30 in the library at the reading room. So
there you go. These are all like next couple of days, and yours is not.
I've had mine last week.
Mine's in a
last
couple
week also.
Mine's in a couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. We have bought some land,
I know.
and we are, unfortunately, it's, it'd be nice if you had a little more cash, because we want to try to hold on to some of that cash that we set aside from that original $3.5 million. But we have been purchasing land, and we do have open space, and we are going to, the plan is, we anticipate, and we're going to do what Councilor Mira asked. We're going to get a planner from Main Street, State Main Street, to help us plan how we're going to do these properties, like expand the park, have a green space, parking lots, whatever is necessary. But we'll plan to move ahead with that. That was a good idea.
I just that properties say up, I mean, there's nothing down in my district that's worth, that we can do farmland preservation on. But up where Zach's at, where Mr. Councilor Burkett is, that property, if we had had the GO bond and the language in place, and we possibly might have been able to purchase it and use it for open space.
So we're a little out of order because we're having a debate, and that's not part of this. Yes, sir, Councilor Burkett.
So my Councilor's Forum, and I thought this was correct, and I wanted to make sure that it was, but the current wordage of the bond does say for acquisition or easements, and it does say farmland preservation or open space. So I think we've crossed our Ts and dotted our Is on this one.
All right.
I thought the final one was just for farmland preservation.
I'm looking at my sample ballot right now, and right of way of farmland preservation and open space purposes.
Okay, because I thought that was, your plea was to please give this land just for farmland preservation.
My plea was to get rid of all the things that were the opposite of conservation that were listed as things we could do with the money. So.
Okay. All right, now we move to Corleone's Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate. To inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session, there is a 3-minute time limit. According to Village Code, Section 2-60G3, regarding public decorum during a meeting, no person shall act in a disorderly manner, nor while addressing the governing body shall any person make any personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks. Presiding officer may bar anyone acting improperly from continuing his or her address of the governing body. Melanie?
First up, we have Mr. Bob Eichhorst. If you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Bob Eichhorst, 5719 Corrales Road. When we incorporated this village in 71, I don't know how many of you guys were here, but I voted for it. Why did we do it? To keep Albuquerque from coming in here with all their planning and zoning rules. That's the whole reason we incorporated. We didn't want Albuquerque to annex us. Every time you guys pass a new ordinance, you're taking away our property rights. Main Street says they don't want solid fences on Corrales Road. Boom, you banned solid fences on Corrales Road. Is Main Street running the village? Hell no. But you jumped when they said, we don't want solid fences. So you want to be able to see in everybody's yards as you drive down the road. You don't own those yards. Those yards belong to the people whose houses are there. It's a hard concept for you to understand. You're governing, but you don't own this village. You don't control our properties. Yes, you do have an ordinance control, ordinance enforcement lady. She made me move all the pipe out of my yard. I moved it. I put up a solid fence halfway down my fence. She said, that's fine. I said, do I need to close off the gate? She said, no, that's fine. Well, now she's giving me letters threatening me. She threatens everybody, threatening me that I got to go to court because I don't have all my stuff neatly piled. I'm a welder. I weld steel pipe. I make gates. I make all kinds of stuff. No, I don't have them neatly piled. She says I got derelict vehicles. No, I don't. How does she know I have derelict vehicles unless she has trespassed onto my property? You don't have the right to trespass onto my property. It is my property. Everybody in here has private property. That's what we call it. That's what we expect. So then she tells me my numbers on my gate aren't right. Sure they are, they're 4 inches high. Oh, they have to have a contrasting color. That's not in your ordinance. No place. She's writing her own rules. You can't write your own rules. My numbers are black on a silver fence. Isn't that contrasting enough? If she could read a tape measure, 90% of the village would get a letter from her because none of the signs that everybody bought from the village are 4-inch letters. You pass the ordinance, you have to have 4-inch letters without even reading that she's going to go out and try to enforce it. All the signs, look at them. Some of you guys know what a tape measure is. They're all 2.5 to 3-inch letters.
Thank you, sir. That's your time.
Yeah, that's my time. 4-inch letters. This code enforcement lady needs to be talked to because this is not Corrales.
Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Rick Toller. If you'll please state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes as well.
Hi, I'm Rick Toller, 483 Hanson Road. I just heard something that I wasn't aware of, that a traffic study may have been requested from, no. But what was it? Can I get somebody to tell me what I just heard as part of my?
We can answer your question after the meeting.
All
if
right,
that's
okay. Well, then I'll just say what I was going to say anyway. I was really disappointed to read the minutes of the discussion of the revised procedure for requesting a traffic engineering study from the last meeting. I couldn't be there. No one on the council said the obvious, which was that this proposed procedure was clearly designed to keep traffic engineering studies from ever being done. Several of you said it to me privately. Why not say it publicly? I repeat the points I made in my comments that were read at that last meeting. The mayor's proposal should be abandoned and replaced with a simple request system that puts the safety of residents, pedestrians, bicyclists, and equestrians first. New Mexico is #1 in the nation for the 7th year in a row for rates of pedestrian traffic deaths. The village should be actively seeking ways to make local roads safe rather than throwing up obstacles and bureaucratic delays to action. Fortunately, the resolution seems to have been tabled, but now it's just been kicked down the road for some consultation with MRCOG. This may happen in 6 months, it may happen never. It's up to you on the council to make it happen now. And while we're waiting, how about getting on with the other traffic calming ideas that have been discussed? Please provide a schedule, not just a pie in the sky, for the striping of West La Entrada along with the paving that's being planned for the west end. And there are at least a half dozen other things that could be done now on West La Entrada and the other problem roads in Corrales. There is all this concern about making a plan for the riprap before somebody gets hurt. That's what I'm asking you guys to do. Make a plan for traffic safety before somebody gets hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Doug Castillo. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. You could please pronounce it correctly and give us your address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm Doug Castile, Casteel, 292 Corrales Road. I've been asked by a number of village residents that share concerns that I have, particularly regarding the AOC project. I've got some concerns, I've got some consternation, and I've got some confusion. My big concern, one of them, is that I don't think enough villagers are keeping pace and knowing what's going on with this proposal of the ACE, or AEC. I got it confused. You know what I mean. But anyhow, for example, I live on a lane, Chaparral Lane, and we've got 8 families living on 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 acres each. They're all professionals. I've got a lawyer, 2 doctors, a dentist, a college professor, and an executive for Instagram. And sort of in a phone query from me after last week's meeting, I asked them how many people knew about this. Not a one of them. So I'm concerned about villagers not knowing about this project. I'm opposed to it personally. I've been here since 1957 on Chaparral Lane, and with the gentleman that came in 71, I know what Corrales should be, and people who want to keep it that way. It's an agricultural community, number one. And you can't stop progress. I do think you can slow it down. But everything now is built on. Any arable land now is built on. I don't want to see Corrales lose its attraction and its uniqueness compared to Los Ranchos or Albuquerque or Rio Rancho. We are unique. We want to keep that uniqueness. Also, I have consternation and confusion about a comment that the mayor addressed to him on the meeting last week regarding the cost of the plans for the project for the Arts Center. And you responded that it didn't cost anything.
As far as I'm aware.
Well, then I found in a Corrales comment dated August 25th, 23, I'll take the last paragraph. It says, in addition, the village spent $400,000 on initial design documents for the ACE Project Center. And that's in print.
Yeah.
So I get clarification if you'd like.
So this is a little out of order, but we asked the architects and the facility build what it would cost for us to come up with an architectural drawing, construction plans, so that we would have something ready, shovel ready, and it was $394,000, $400,000. We did not spend that money. We don't have that money.
Okay, the text said it was spent, so.
No. We've spent other money on that property, but for other reasons.
Yeah, okay, I wanted to clarify that.
Yes,
Thank you.
no.
Thank you.
And remember, if it's in print, it's not always.
I've learned not to believe what I read since I was 8 years old.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you, sir.
course,
That's your time.
You say I'm out of time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
thank
sorry.
you. You'll see me at the committee meetings from here on out. I do have some other vital things to say. Thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome to come, and thank you.
All right, up next is Mr. Tony Tafoya. You can please state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes. Yep.
He may
Do you
be
want to move
talking.
on to the
He may be
next
talking.
one?
Say go to the next one, yeah.
Okay, then Rudy Mieta. You can also state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Rudy Mieta at 116 East Meadowlark. First of all, I want to publicly express gratitude and admiration to the leader of the second committee that is reviewing the ACE. I think that Johnny Martinez is doing a great job. I think that he's sincere and he keeps things open-minded. And most of all, he establishes un ambiente de respeto. There's a tone of respect that he models and expects. And he respects the people who are in the meeting. And it's great that we live in a village where that is what happens. You know, there's an old saying, if it waddles like a duck, and if it quacks like a duck, and if it poops like a duck, it's probably a duck. Well, we know that in our sister village, there is a project that didn't get enough input. It's called the Palindromes housing thing, whatever. And I'm just getting concerned about our ACE project, because the more and more that I have conversations and show people the plans that we didn't pay anything for, that have a 2-story building with 275 seats, I'm hearing, you know, the word Corrales monstrosity. That's what they call the palindrome over there. In other words, if it walks like a monstrosity, if it quacks like a monstrosity, and if it poops like a monstrosity, it's a monstrosity. I understand that there's, first of all, an initial committee that took a look at this, but you know the problem with that committee? It only asked organizations. It didn't ask individuals. It didn't ask people who don't belong to organizations. In a village of 8,584 citizens, not everybody belongs to an organization. So in essence, the majority of Coraleños have been disenfranchised from this project from the beginning. Now, that's the reason for the existence and the further existence of this second committee that Johnny is heading up. And I certainly hope that there was a mistake in the newspaper where it regarded that the work is all done and it's a done deal, because we are far from finished. In fact, we're barely at the beginning. The thing is, it states here also that a 501, no, it doesn't say it in here, but I know, a 501c3 organization has been formed to seek funding. Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't authorize anybody to go as a villager. I didn't authorize anybody to go seek funding for something based on this, because that's what it's based on. If you're gonna go ask people for money, it's gonna be based on something. Even if Intel gave us $8 million, you know what? I would say that doesn't work. That doesn't count. And the reason for Intel is part of Rio Rancho, and that would be outside money coming in to influence a facility owned and run by the village. If we even decide we need or want a facility. Is that my 3 minutes?
That's your 3
I timed it
minutes.
just
Thank
right,
you.
didn't I?
Thank you. Did Tony come back in? Is he still out there? Oh, okay, all right, move
Okay,
on.
That's it.
That's it, okay. All right, well, thank you all. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is basically minutes for October 10th and a reappointment for a Parks and Rec Committee, Parks and Rec Commission member, Gene Reed?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I may, not to remove from the consent agenda, but there was a misspelling in the minutes, I'd like to correct.
Oh, that's not a problem. Just tell Melanie, we can do that.
The state of Israel was spelled wrong. So we
I
correct that.
apologize. We
Thank
will
you.
fix that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay,
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
okay. Do we have a second? And we have a second from Councilor Mira. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll move on to new business. So consideration action approval of proclamation 23-10 for First Responders Day. That's, you know, every day in the village is actually First Responders Day. I mean, you can't call it well, yes, you can. We really appreciate our first responders.
We do have lots of them here with us tonight.
Yep.
Oh, here they are. Would you all like to come up and be celebrated? Chief, would you lead your crew? Chief, would you like to come up?
Mayor, council, thank you very much. We're all very privileged to serve here. And yeah, we have the best of both worlds, you know, all the conveniences of our neighbors. Fortunately, not every day without their headaches though. So no, thank you all for your support that we get from
We really
the governing
appreciate you
body
guys.
and the administration as well. Only a few of our personnel are here tonight, but you know, somebody has to be protecting the village. But everybody knows Detective Sergeant Rogers, and not everybody has had an opportunity to meet Officer Pantea, who is relatively new to the department. He's a firearms instructor. He's running us all through some training at the EPD range over the next couple of days. So that's where he'll be. And Detective Colby as well, and many of you have had the opportunity to meet him. All very great.
Well, we're grateful to you. Thank you. And our fire chief.
And we have Tanya and
Oh, and
several
Deputy
other,
Fire Chief.
yep, on Zoom.
You know, I keep forgetting there's somebody up on the TV.
I think we need another TV back here so you
Or get
guys can
another
see
one and
it.
put it over there.
Yeah.
So this is a proclamation. We have a motion and a second.
Not yet.
I move we approve proclamation 2310.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have 2 seconds. There you go. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, you should know better. Consideration action approval of resolution 23-68 requesting extension on NMDOT co-op project number L300-313. This is a routine extension when your contractors don't get around to it. So and I think you saw the prepared comments by Michael Chavez in our packet. So do I have a motion to approve resolution 23-68?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And a second?
Before,
Is there anybody who has discussion?
thank you, Mr. Mayor, you read my mind. Just real quick, like, thus far, the 16,000 been spent on Cadillo Lane, and they're leaving 89,000 for work on La Entrada. What are they gonna do in La Entrada that we have still money for?
Finish it.
Yes, sir.
Michael? Is he there?
He said he was going to be by phone.
Oh,
I don't recognize.
we're gonna
Oh,
finish
yep,
what was started,
he's-
but they ran out of money.
He's here, he's muted. I'm not sure if he's able to get,
Hi, here I am.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
we
Yes,
can
sir.
hear
Yes,
you.
sir.
Mayor, councilors. So what we're kind of trying to do here is the amount of money we're receiving isn't a whole lot. So when I took over, some of these projects weren't finished. Like La Entrada wasn't finished paving from Old Church Road to Loma Larga, so we're gonna do that. But we also have some grade adjustment to do on the, right there at Old Church Road, because we're flooding the resident on the south side. And along with that, we will stripe the whole road when that is complete. So that's what that one's earmarked for.
Thank you, sir. Got it.
Councilor Murray?
Yeah, thank you. Along the same lines, then, when the original was approved for this, it was based on $24 per square yard. I'm sure that the price of asphalt's probably gone up. Is that still sufficient to finish the La Entrada project?
I'm pretty sure we're gonna be close, but I do have money left in my bond to finish it off.
Well, I mean, you can always come back to us and ask for more, you know.
He has some bond money that he does use, like when he needs matches.
Yeah.
And if it's not, an overwhelming amount, he can use that. And then if he can't, then he can come back to us.
Well, there was one comment I think he made a few months ago that kind of disturbed me a little bit when he was talking about Angel Road, how he had to go raid his budget in order to finish it. I just want to make sure that he can always come to us and ask for more money. I mean, if we've got it available, I mean, I don't see any reason why the council wouldn't support that kind of a.
That's right, because we're really generous.
Yes, we are. So anyway, so La Entrada will be striped. Is that right, Mike?
Yes, we need to finish paving it first. And like I said, when they repaved it the first time, what they did is they pulverized and left the material there. So it increased the grade about 3 inches, and that's just enough to flood that one resident on the south. So we're gonna have to go back and take a little bit of that out and then lower that grade. So that's kind of what one part of the holdup has been.
Okay, so also on Cadillo, I noticed that's been freshly paved. Is that going to get striped as well, even as it's a fairly short street?
Yes, we'll stripe that. I'll get a whole bunch of roads striped. We'll do them all at the same time. Get a little saving on the cost.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
We'll go out and get a few paintbrushes and some paint.
Yeah, I think the Coyote's done that a few times, hasn't he?
Okay. How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Waldman?
Aye.
Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have 100%. Next is consideration, action, and approval of ordinance 23-09 regarding the animals. This is the ordinance that we talked about almost a month ago, isn't it? And so this is now, it was published and posted, and now it's up for a vote. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance number 23-09 regarding animals.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second, thank you. Any further discussion or changes that you want to make?
We're good.
Are we all good? Councilor Miera, how do you vote?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Waldman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
And Councilor Murray?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to commission appointments. Approval of Stevie Kunzler, appointment to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion needed? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of Maya Higgins, appointment to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. Need a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second? And there we go. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of Isabella Trujillo appointment to the Farmland Preservation and Agricultural Commission. I don't know if you guys know Isabella. She is Russell Trujillo's daughter. And she is a flamenco dancer in addition to being a farmer. And she's had an excellent mentor in her father, who is just a super person. This is a very fine family, very fine young lady, and I would support her 100%. Do I have a motion to approve her?
In that case, I'll move on it. She works for, she's a dancer with the Cutthroats, so that's pretty good.
You can see her at the growers market. She's with her dad. They're in their tent. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Anybody else? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approval of CJ Ames appointment to the Farmland Preservation and Agricultural Commission.
Move to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Anybody? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, he's approved. So what we have for the future is we're going to talk about, well, we're going to actually try to adopt meeting procedures, and that date's to be determined because we're still kind of tinkering with it. We're going to have this, we don't know when we're going to get this plan for the village properties. We talked to Main Street, was it last week? And they said they're going to get their person who does that to contact us. And then we have approval of the holidays, excuse me, for the village staff, as well as our Open Meetings Act, and those will both be in December. We have one meeting in November on the 14th and one meeting in December on the 12th. Any other, and I have on here, John Alsobrooks having a meeting on November 8th for his group. So see, I was thinking, anybody else have anything? Okay, let's start with Murray.
Yeah, I was reading Melanie's notes, and it looks like the master trails plan is not going to be done until the end of the year. We were told the end of the summer. Now we're at the end of the year. Are we going to? Is that going to be a definitive date?
It's at the point where we're ready to redo the map, and I'm working with the COG on that. So they did pretty well for us on the zone map was the last map they did for us, and we had a few back and forth. I'm going to try and go down and meet her in person and see if we can.
Bianca?
Peyton, actually, at the COG. So that's
we'll try
where
to
we're
get
at
an
with
update.
that.
We'll try to get an update. Okay. Councilor Alsobrooks.
Under future agenda items, I wonder, will we be getting golf clubs to go with these golf balls?
You know, I do have a pair of old golf clubs in my garage that I have not used probably for 30 years. I think they're stainless steel shafts.
Now there's no.
If you can carry those 18 holes, I'll shake your hand.
Those bend well.
I thought they were just for us to choke on.
What were these signifying?
The chief gave us.
Fire chief got them. Fire chief got them.
Oh, there, next to you right there. CFD, right.
Anything else? Agenda.
I do have.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't think to put it on there, but we will be having the swearing in of new officers after January 1st. So I'll get that all set up and let everybody know when that will be.
Well, it's the same guys.
They're sitting here.
Yeah, but last time it was under COVID.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a pool most likely to lose to a write-in, so I think I'm leading that.
They don't have a mascot. They took the pictures.
So we have finished the business session.
Nope.
Oh, sorry, chief. I didn't see you way back there in the corner. Gosh. It's almost, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Administrator Curry, I forgot to mention, I know I've been briefing you at staff meetings, but I have a lot of stuff coming up. And I just didn't know if maybe at the next agenda, I can maybe give a briefing to the council about
absolutely
all the projects that are coming up and a timeline, just so everyone's informed. I know we put it in our status reports, but we just have a lot of things going on.
No,
So-
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Just be sure to let us know.
Okay.
I'll put it on my board.
Many of these things you're talking about related to some of the funds that we received in the last legislative session. Okay, since the business session is over, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.